Blessed Rising Soul Family. Greetings to you, all my gods and goddesses, my kings and queens, emperors and empresses. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome to Soul Family Oracle, where I deliver messages from the depth of our soul. And if you're returning, as always, thank you so much. Today's message, I'm not sure if it's a message or if it's a past life diary yet, but I have very strong feelings that it's a past life diary, because from when I was meditating, even though I got a bit of information, it felt like I needed to start the message to let everything unravel itself, which means there's a bigger story behind it. So when this download came to me, it came to me as the sacred priestesses of Isis, the sacred priestesses of Isis, sex magic and the making of kings. And this message is specifically for divine feminines. This message is specifically for my divine feminines out there. So in this particular message, when I say divine feminine, I mean specifically our female divine feminines, not as interchangeable as we use it, which is how it is, but I'm specifically speaking about my female divine feminines out there, for the people that this message resonates with. Now, this sacred priestesses of Isis, sex magic and the making of kings, is 3 messages in one, 3 parts in one. The first part being the sacred priestesses of Isis, the second part being sex magic, and the third part being the making of kings. Now, when this download came through, it came through as something about recreation, rebirth, 222 on the timer. It came through as something about renewal, something about healing, something about transformation, something about expansion, right? And the energy was confirmed by something that happened, or a vision that I had a couple of years ago. But again, as I've noticed recently, a lot of the things that have happened in the past, or the visions and stuff, are actually now coming together. It's like, because now there's like a lot of basis, or the foundation is much more finished, so the pictures are getting much clearer for some of these messages. So what came through with the sacred priestesses of Isis was speaking of a group of women that found favor in the goddess, a group of women who were chosen for their purity and their heart. Again, the sacred priestesses of Isis, this particular group of women I'm speaking about in relation to the sex magic and the making of kings. I'm speaking about a group of women who, in this lifetime, in this past lifetime, they were chosen to become sacred priestesses of the goddess Isis because of their purity and the kind of heart that they carried. And again, with that energy of healing, renewal, rebirth, transformation, expansion, it feels like it's very important to keep these words in mind, because it's like, for whatever reason, why we need to keep these things in mind, I feel like the divine is trying to show me right now that there's a lot of importance in who they are. Pure and good-hearted, kind-hearted, because of their purity and their heart. So it's like it's trying to bring my attention to the fact that in order to achieve rebirth, renewal, transformation, positive expansion, there is a certain level of purity and good-heartedness that has to come with it. And I feel like another underlining message is the fact that a lot of people don't experience the level of abundance they can experience because they are not kind. or because they are not pure enough. And nobody is perfect, but like pure enough is like when you don't hold somebody ill of someone else in your mind, when you basically go by good intentions and like intentionally do good, or if not intentionally even do good, not intentionally do bad. All right, let's get back into the message. And another thing that was coming through was that these priestesses had to be kind of like had to have been broken in some way. Not broken like damaged or like, but like broken in some way, like something about their life had to have brought about some kind of pain, which their heart would be able to release to now bring them to that level in energy. And this actually makes so much sense, because when you look at the story of the goddess Isis, she went through a certain level of pain, different times, a lot of different times, but it didn't change her heart. It only strengthened her power and her heart. So it's almost as if like these priestesses, or these like sacred priestesses, were chosen based on the energy that they carry, and it's like their energy was like a perfect match for that of the goddess Isis. And not because maybe they revered her, or they went to the temples to pray to her, no, but because of their innate nature, the heart they carried and the stories that they carried, the heart they carried, despite the stories that they walk with, despite their pain, despite their traumas, they still carried a heart of light, a big heart, and they still had purity. They still remained pure. So these women, you would say, like these women, like it's saying, they were sacred in all ways. And another thing that was coming through was how, even though a lot of them may have been born from pain, they had they had become walking transmuters of pain. And this is as a result of the choosing. It's like the choosing empowers them, or like the energy that begins to walk with them became like, made them into transmuters of pain, made them into transmuters of negativity, where it's like just their energy alone, or them walking by somebody alone, could transmute their energy, or them walking in a room would like change the whole energy in the place. Like their aura alone would became like transmuters, where they could transmute energy. So it makes sense why they had to be of pure heart and kind, good heart, but also had to have experienced a certain level of pain in order to be able to be made into vessels to transmute pain. So this explains why, before somebody is thinking, oh, why do you have to go through some kind of pain just to acquire some power? This is not about power. This is about becoming a vessel, a receptive vessel to spirit, or to a sacred cause, right? And it's like, this is what these women, or these sacred priestesses, would become from being chosen. And I feel like this choosing was done also by the goddess herself, in the sense that it's like, that's why I think this message started with me saying that a group of women who have found favor in the goddess, that the goddess has found favor in, because it's like this choosing. And I'm getting like somebody, like a woman, like an elder woman, but not like an old, not an elder woman, but like an older woman, being given directives by an elder woman of how they would find the new sacred priestesses, or how they would find their new initiate. It's almost as if like this elder would receive some kind of vision, or like she would go deep into meditation to connect to the goddess, and then ask the goddess to guide her to her new initiates, the people that she had found favor in, the people that she, the goddess, had chosen to become the sacred priestesses, or the high priestesses, or the priestesses in her temple. But specifically with these group of women, they had to be chosen by her, and it's like she's giving directives to the older woman of how she will identify these women or these girls when she sees them. So this, I feel like, breaks down the first part, which is the sacred priestesses of Isis. It's like who these people were and how like they became priestesses of Isis. How they didn't just choose to become like, priestesses of Isis, or they didn't just go to the temple and say, "Oh, I want to." Oh my goodness, it's like a total disaster here right now. It's like a whole- So 144 on the timer. So it's like they didn't just like go to the temples and be like, "Oh, I want to become a sacred priestess of Isis and this and this and that." 1 minute, guys. I think I dropped. Okay. So they didn't just go by themselves and decide, "Oh, it's they were chosen." They were chosen, right? 1, 2, 3 on the timer. And from that choosing, like I was saying, with the elder woman and the older woman, and the elder woman showing the older woman how to identify them or like where to find them. And it's like these guidance or these directives, right? These guidance or these directives would be very specific, right? It would be almost like following the omens. It would be very specific, like for instance, or like for example, like going to the marketplace and standing by, you know, and standing in the center of the corn seller's store and looking up at the sun and where the furthest ray leads. And maybe the furthest ray, when you look down to the furthest ray, right down, coming down under the furthest ray would be like a tent. And in front of the tent, there she would be standing in front of the tent, whoever an initiate would be. And maybe for another initiate, it would be like, going to the riverside, right? Or going to the riverside and spotting the maiden that is, I don't know, washing her hair by the palm trees. Washing her hair by the palm trees on the further side of the river, or on the deeper side of the river. And that would be how to identify. So basically, it's like this picking or this choosing happened in a way that was very much like very spiritual. Again, this is why it was coming to us. It's like almost like the goddess handpicked these sacred priestesses because of the level of whew, it's like they had to be vetted by her. She had to vet them herself because of the importance of the responsibility that the responsibility was that they were coming into. And so this, I feel like, sums up the sacred priestess of Isis part, right? And now let's go to the sex magic and the making of kings part. So with this sex magic and the making of kings part, I feel like I'll put the two together instead of like, breaking them down individually. And the two together, what was coming through is these women that were chosen to become sacred priestesses were taken through a process that would see them to becoming vessels of, again, transmutation. Vessels of transmutation, but for a specific purpose. And this purpose would be what? To transmute through sex. Now, there's something about the lineages of these women and how, for instance, they were born into certain families or born into pain or trauma and stuff like that. Some may have not even known who their families were from a very young age. But their lineages is speaking of something about, like, for instance, not having children but being reincarnated through your family's lineage somehow. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas some people believe, like, oh, for 15 on the time, I thank you, Spirit. Whereas some people believe, like, for instance, maybe to be reincarnated back into your family, like, it would have to be through, like, your daughter or your granddaughter or your great grandchild or something. But it's like, it, imagine if you are a woman who didn't have children, there would be no daughter or grandchild, right? However, with these women, they would they had been reincarnated through maybe the same bloodline, just through pure spiritual means. You understand? No science, not because they had a daughter who had a daughter, or because they were no. And this I'm getting now is because of their purpose also. So, and to some extent, these may have not just been ordinary women. These may have not just been ordinary women in the sense that, let me explain, their soul's identity may have been, their soul's identity were very unique. Thank you, Spirit. Their soul's identity were very unique, right? And this again, why the goddess had to handpick them and show them out in the way that they were identified. Because it's like they were identified by their souls. They were chosen by their souls. It's like a soul's identity. So it's like these people wouldn't be able to watch them and identify them if not through some, specific means. Wow. So with this sex magic, right? It's like, first of all, let me just say, in the ancient times, or in the times of ancient Egypt, right? Or in these times which I speak of, sex wasn't seen as what we see it as now. Sex these days, I believe, is seen as just like some kind of entertainment for a lot of people. Even though I feel like more people are getting awareness on this because spirituality, or more people are awakening spiritually. But I feel like, as compared to the past, how sex was revered and seen and respected, that's not how it is now. And so again, with this sex magic part, let's not look at it as something that is so, first of all, let's not look at it as something that is so evil, or something that is supposed to be bad just because it's sex magic. And second, I need you to listen to this with the knowing, or with the understanding of the difference in the importance of the value of sex then and now. 1818 on the timer, because then this is where the sex magic is coming from. There was the understanding or the knowing of sex or intercourse being a portal, a way, or a portal through which creations were made, a portal through which things were manifested, a portal through which things were brought into being, and a portal through which things were expanded. Unlike now, where we don't understand these things, it was very much understood. Hence, why these women were called under this specific spiritual order for this specific reason. Another thing that was coming through with this sex magic is these women had to be celibate for at least 20 years to reach the level where they could be in the energy to do this. So it's like they didn't just join the temples and just become sacred priestesses where they were doing sex. Nah, this is nothing like that. It's like these women joined these calls to cultivate their energy to reach a certain level where they could become the sacred priestesses. So I'm getting some of these women would end up just becoming high priestesses in the temples and not actually these sacred priestesses. So it's almost as if even from the vetting that was done, there would still be a part where some would become the sacred priestesses and others would be just priestesses around the sacred priestesses. And for these sacred priestesses in particular, they had to have been celibate for 20 years at least in order for their cycle to come to full form where they could become a sacred priestess. And another thing that was coming up was like how in the time of them being in the temples, they spent all their time taking care of themselves. They spent their time nurturing themselves. They spent their time bathing in oils and in milk. They spent their time doing their hair. They spent their time rubbing oils on themselves. They spent their time smelling flowers. Literally, I'm seeing like a big bath of like milky bath with like flowers, like different types of flowers with multiple women in it. And it's like these women lived in a world where they understood that their power lies in them, where they took care of themselves as a way to what? Not just enhance their beauty, but intensify their power. Whoever I'm speaking to, something is coming through as a disconnect with you and self-care. Whoever I'm speaking to, for some, not all, for some who resonate, this is going to be specific for some of the people that resonate. You might have this thing with self-care. There might be some kind of disconnect with you and self-care. 2121 on the timer, where maybe it's like you don't really see self-care as a thing, or you're like, oh, I'm not really bothered, or I don't really want to, or it's a bit over the top, or yeah. And you might be needing to tap into this energy of self-care. And I'm hearing like deep self-care also. So this is kind of like healing also. And this self-care and the healing is just basically saying that this form of self-care that you give yourself is going to be healing to you. Or this self-care that you choose to give yourself is going to be healing to you. And it's going to help you unlock part of you that is going to what? Enhance and intensify your power. Hmm. So this energy of like having to be celibate for at least 20 years and this period of like just like self-care, it's like just like preparation stage for this very high responsibility. This is giving me the energy of like, who was it that had to like bathe in like meh for for a year? She had to be like, she rubbed herself. This is a figure from the Bible. I can't remember her name. Is it Esther? I don't remember. If somebody knows, I'm not going online to check. So if somebody knows, please put it in the comments for me. Thank you very much. Where she had to bathe she had to rub herself with myrrh oil for a year straight before going to meet the king. This is very interesting to me right now. I wish I could. This feels very significant. It's like this preparation phase was like so important because of the role that they were meant to play. These women were being prepared to make kings, but in a way that was very sacred, in a way that was very ancient. Also, I'm hearing this is like almost like an ancient form of magic that was that they were empowered with. This is like I'm getting how the gods. Oh, this is like when some of the gods would come down and mate with the maidens that they found favor in order to expand. Okay, anyway, I feel like that's going to be a whole another video, a whole another topic. So yeah, this preparation phase is so they would become basically walk in the energy of that love and power and confidence and beauty and allure, enchantment. This is like glamour magic at its core, self-care. And why again where did they take this long intricate process of becoming this sacred priestess? Because it involved also what? Sex magic. And again, We're looking at sex magic 2444 on the timer from the ancient view, from the old times, where it was respected and revered and understood as a portal of creation, as a portal of birth, as a portal of renewal, transformation, expansion. So it's like this preparation and needing to be celibate for at least 20 years was also the vessel would be fully prepared, fully receptive, fully powerful, or fully empowered. And another thing that was coming through was something about their age. It's almost like I'm hearing ageless beauty, ageless beauty, ageless beauty, and the nectar of life. Ooh. These women were blessed with the nectar of life. It's like they're choosing and their perseverance and their choosing. This was like a gift directly from the goddess Isis. I'm getting like a very close knit relationship with the goddess and these sacred priestesses, with these women. And this nectar of life is what brought them this ageless beauty, and this nectar of life is what would go through them, through the person that they would mate with or the person that they would lay with. Hmm. So this sex magic part, they didn't just oh, it wasn't like they were sacred priestess where it's like they were learning the art of sex magic. So they were learning the art of self magic to empower their sex magic, because they weren't having sex, they were celibate. If they were learning the art of sex magic, there would be at least some form of sexual activity once at least throughout that 20-year period, or well, 20-year period, so at least 25, 30, from whenever that age is, right? But this says like it's like self magic, self-care, nurturing themselves. All they did was take care of themselves and literally like 27 on the timer, like bask in the sun and take healing energy from the sun and rub themselves down with oils and do their hairs, wash their hairs and bathe in milk and flowers, pick flowers. And I'm hearing from time to time they would offer healing to the children. From time to time they would heal the children. And this would be a form of replenishment and nourishment, replenishment and nourishment. Children are very special, and the energy they give to us when we give to them is a very special energy that can literally like heighten and nourish you. So this is very understandable. So with this sex magic part, it's like these women stayed in a long period of preparation to take on this responsibility of transmuting energy through sex magic. A long process of preparing themselves and making their vessels even more purified, even more aligned. This is where this oath of celibacy came from. This oath of celibacy also, I'm getting, is something that was established. It's something that was already established within them. Whereas like these weren't women that had like their immediate thoughts weren't like, or their immediate desires weren't like family, children, this, their immediate desires would be something more spiritual, something more on a soul level, something more aligned with purpose. This would explain why, even though they're celibate and not like they're not family driven, they love children and feel a sense of responsibility also towards children. I'm hearing mother of all. These women became mothers of all without actually being mothers. And I feel like this is where the making of the king's part comes in. Hmm. Now, why I was saying that the making of the Cain's part and the sex magic part I would put together is because this preparation to become these vessels to transmute energy through sex magic would so they would make kings. Kings and emperors would be the men that they would lay with to transmute for through their sexual energy. Hmm. Okay, 30-30 on the timer. And now 333. These women became the kingmakers, kings and emperors who were blessed. Hmm. I'm hearing the order of the sun and the order of the moon. Kings and emperors that were blessed by the order of the sun and the order of the moon were called or would be chosen to receive this gift, would be chosen to receive this healing or guided to receive this healing. So it's like not just anybody could come to the temples in search of the sacred priestesses, not just anybody could come to the temples of Isis, to come and to come and seek healing through sex magic. It wasn't done. I'm hearing divine appointment. It was by divine appointment. And it was specifically for the kings and emperors under the order of the sun and the order of the moon. This is going to be very specific for whoever this message pertains to. You may have been attracted, you may be somebody who attracts a lot of men with like fiery energy, or maybe even a lot of men who associate their energy with the sun or embody that sun energy. And you are very connected to the moon. You may be very connected to the moon. You are very connected to the moon. Whoever I'm speaking to, you identify with the triple goddess also. You identify very much with the triple goddess, where you innately understand the role of the triple goddess very well and the power that she carries. Whoever I'm speaking to also, there's something about you when you have sex with people, or you've been told, or you've noticed or experienced. It's like you take out something. And I know we've been told, or when you become more awakened in your spirituality or in the practice of priesthood, you will learn that your sexual energy is very powerful and very healing and all those things. But there are some women who literally are walking around with a manifestation portal in between their thighs. You are walking around with a manifestation portal in between your thighs, whereas anybody that has ever had sexual intercourse with you, 3333 on the time right now, that's 4 threes, 33, 33, that's 6 6, 6 and 6, 12. You create things, 12, 1 and 2, that's 3. Just like the sun energy, just like what we're speaking about, healing, creation, transmuting. When people get in your energy or get your sexual energy, they flourish. Your sexual energy makes people flourish, makes them abundant. This is because of who you are innately, and this past life initiation, and this past life as a priestess or a sacred priestess of sex magic in the temples of the goddess Isis. And again, let's look at this right. I speak of sex as it was seen in the old times, not this time. And so it's like this message is really, really pertaining to like a group of people that really that you identify with the Egyptian pantheon. You identify with some of your past Egyptian lives, and then some you identify with the goddess Isis 1000% for sure, but also with the god Ra. Also with the god Ra. Because one another thing that is coming through right now is a conception of Heru or Horus as it's believed by some. I mean, when when you come down from Kemet to Egypt, you know, anyway, that's a story for another time. So, the conception of Heru, he was conceived by supernatural means, where it's like the goddess Isis brought together the dismembered part of Osiris, and through spell work, through magic, joined through magic, took fluid of herself and himself and joined it together to expand both their energies into the manifestation of the being, their son, Heru. Mm. So this would explain why these sacred high priestess made, wow, I'm hearing pharaohs even, made pharaohs. This would explain why they would make kings and emperors who were under the order of the sun and the moon. This is very much aligned with a lineage. This is very much like it's like this is, and that's why it was speaking of their soul also. It's like speaking of their soul identity. Like these weren't just any ordinary women. Whatever lifetime they had been born in, their souls were very much godly. These were women with godly souls. These were women with godly souls. These were women with wow, with godly energies. Okay, let's go back into the making of kings. So we're speaking of sacred priestesses who made kings and emperors and pharaohs by becoming their vessels of transmutation, by becoming their vessels of healing. Wow, their vessels of manifestation. And I'm seeing this vision of like a process of like sexual intercourse, but like a very sacred process where it's like this is like a king and a sacred priestess, but there's a lot of like magic surrounding them. There's like candlelight, and there's like, let's go, there's candlelight, and there's something like palm trees, but not palm trees like the leaves, but like hanging from the side. And there's like chanting. There's like, it's like veils. It's like four veils around. So it's like they are in like like an enclosure where it's like they are in it's like in the bed space is like enclosed by four like veils or like curtains, but like walls. So it's almost like see through. And then there's like the elders or the older women standing outside of it or like on the side of it but away from the bed, and it's like they're chanting and singing chants. And for somebody, I'm getting this sense of in this physical realm, in this incarnation, this energy when it's happening, these like elders or older women are kind of like around, but like kind of like in spirit, where it's like they're taking the transmitter. Whoever I'm speaking to, your sexual energy is very powerful, very, very powerful. You may know this, and so whoever I'm speaking to, you're probably celebrating this time or have refrained from sex for a while. It's like you know what your sexual energy is about, you know what it does. Whoever I'm speaking to, also, you may be skilled in the art of sex where you've mastered how to manifest through your sexual energy, and I'm talking by yourself, not like through having sex with others. No, your sexual energy is very sacred, very, very powerful. And I feel like you know this. I'm speaking to somebody who knows this or has sensed this. And I'm getting also for somebody in the past, a few years ago, you used to have like maybe you used to have some kind of sexual entity. You may have had dreams of some kind of entity trying to have sex with you. This is because of how powerful your sexual energy is. This is because, and then I feel like then you didn't know who you were. You didn't know what kind of powerful sexual energy you had. You didn't know that you were walking out, you were one of the women that has a manifestation, a portal between your legs, right? And it's like this entity knew this, and it's almost like it was coming to you and like through this sexual energy and in the spiritual realm, it was feeding off your energy basically. This entity knew you. It knew who you were. It recognized your soul. So back to this making of kings. This used to be a sacred practice that was reserved for the kings and emperors under the order of the sun and the moon who were guided to the temples of Isis, where through sex magic they would receive healing and they would receive manifestations come true. And I'm hearing pharaohs again. This is the reason why these women had to go through such a process. But part of this message is the fact that something happened to change the course of this. 4133 on the timer. Laws were broken. Rules were broken. Kings became greedy. Pharaohs became tyrants. Wow. A lot of the goddesses, a lot of the high priestesses were guided by the goddess to not to not flee. Flee wouldn't be the word, but to relocate. They were guided to relocate. I'm hearing something about pimps also, but almost like a corruption in the temples. And this is like something that happened. I'm hearing like over thousands of years, this became a corrupt practice because the elders, the older women, became somewhat of pimps because they became corrupt with riches, corrupt by riches. Riches they were offered by kings and emperors in order to hand over sacred priestesses without the proper rites or without them going through the proper processes. Because this was not just sex, these were like sacred practices that required sacred processes, required just like the chants that were happening whilst this was happening. But with the greediness of some of these kings that became powerful, too powerful, they started to make demands that were not in the liking of the goddesses. This is the reason why the goddess guided for the sacred priestesses to relocate and to govern themselves. At some point, some of these sacred priestesses had to relocate, had to flee. Some of you had to flee because, wow, oh my goodness. Some were kidnapped. Some were made into slaves. Some were made into sex slaves. Some were made into common whores. Oh, and my mind is going back on that disconnect with somebody 444 on the timer, being disconnected with themselves and like self-care and stuff like that. This is because your soul remembers the things that you went through, the things that some of us had to go through when 4414 on the timer, when over the time when this practice became corrupt, when they corrupted this sacred practice. And it's almost like, wow, it's like I'm getting like running. A lot are running in this lifetime. A lot of women, that were a lot of women, a lot of the people that this message resonated in this lifetime are running from their femininity, running from themselves. 4444 on the timer, running from their femininity. Somebody is not comfortable being dressed as, like, being femininely dressed, like being feminine, being in their feminine energy. This is because of that memory of their soul remembering what happened. I feel like there's a message here. The corruption of this sacred practice. Kings became greedy, pharaohs became tyrants, and they understood that a lot of their good luck charm were these sacred priestesses. And I'm hearing greed of the queen's greed. Some of the queens became envious. The jealousy of the queen, the envy of the queens, like the queen's envy or the queen's jealousy, the queen's greed. Some of the queens, I'm hearing queen consort, some of the queens became envious and orchestrated ways to bring corruption to the temples of the sacred priestesses, to infiltrate the temples of the sacred priestesses, to tarnish the images of the sacred priestesses. I'm hearing some of the sacred priestesses were falsely blamed and branded whores, branded witches who enchanted kings and powerful men. Wow. I feel like this is where I'm going to leave this message for now, and I will do a continuation with more in-depth of where this leads from here. But I feel like this is a very big message. 4646 on the timer, going to 1010 and 02. I feel like there's more to this message. And so this is where I will leave this message for now. As always, listen with discernment, take only what resonates and leave what doesn't. And also, I'm feeling the need to add that this is a very specific message, and this is under the Past Life Diaries. And if this message resonates with you, please like, share, subscribe, comment to help us reach more of our soul family. And I feel like, especially now in this time, we are tapping into a whole new timeline. We have risen to a whole new timeline. Have a blessed day.